she won't cook no breakfast, food to my brother, let's get up. Wife don't go, all she do, walk down the street at night, walk down the street at night, walk down the street at night, walk down. One more time for me.
Hello, Rod Mackay of the Redfish Blues Band here, and I'm listening to Gaulty and the Gators Blues and News Show.
He probably isn't, you know. He's usually lounging about in a bath at this time of day, so I'm told. However, a welcome to the Blues and News Show. Today we're talking about the two Taylors of Alligator Records, not related. And you need to excuse me because my cat is losing her winter fur and it's the only time I'm actually allergic to her, so I apologise. She also enjoys, headbutting the microphone and wafting her fur around my face when I'm doing the radio, so it's great fun. Anyway, we're going to start off with Hound Dog Taylor. I do believe he was the first ever to be signed to Alligator Records. Now, I'm not going to go too much into that because I do have a show in the future all about Alligator Records. So we're just going to stick to them, the people today. So we've got Hound Dog Taylor and KokoTaylor. As I said, not related. So we're going to start off with Hound Dog Taylor. Sorry. What magicians really practice is subterfuge. Right, he was cheap guitars, cheap booze, amps, and he was like the court jester of Chicago slide guitar blues. He was cool. And, you know, he was a master. His quote, "When I die, they'll say he couldn't play beep, but he sure made it sound good," is emblazoned on a t-shirt over a photo of his six-fingered fretting and sliding hand, and his stage persona laughing and joking at warp speed and at bullhorn volume, drunk, Pall Mall dangling from his lips, huge slide raking his strings in a way that made his amp, you know, kind of almost detonate like a bomb, and you know, he was a bit of a kind of barroom jester, but he was quite, you know, magical. He was talented, and and he was genuine. Despite his kind of almost wild playing, the effect it had on audiences, and the story that it still tells is magical. So anybody who heard Hound Dog live and says they didn't have a good time is lying, says John Sinclair, the American counterculture hero who helped present Taylor while serving on the board of the Ann Arbor Blues and Jazz Festival in the early 70s. I don't know which one it is I've seen, but I have watched a documentary all about the Ann Arbor Blues and Jazz Festival, and who was on it? Oh, there was loads of folk on it. It was brilliant. There was a guy on it that they reckoned was about 107 at the time. And it was lovely because during the very hot times, they had people sitting holding umbrellas over the top of the musicians so that, you know, they didn't burn and they weren't in the sun. But it was amazing to watch it. All these folk everybody was smoking and most folk were barefoot, but they were all having a blast. It was great fun. So he'd start by yelling at the beginning of his sets, you know, let's all have some fun, and everybody did. So he was one of those artists that even if you thought you didn't like that kind of music, that you would get right into it because he was so into it, you know. So he was a perpetually struggling musician from Mississippi. He could barely read a word, but he read his audiences like Shakespeare, using songs like Wild About You Baby and Give Me Back My Wig. And his trio, the House Rockers, Almighty's Groove, you know, they were known for lifting people's spirits. And he also knew how to find the soft spots and aching souls with his Tears, his kind of teary ones, Sadie and She's Gone. I don't know, what did I pick today? If I've got time, I'm going to stick She's Gone on as well. So I've got a vast amount of music for you today, none of which is actually, apart from 4, to do with this show, just picked songs that I liked, if I'm going to be honest. But from Hound Dog Taylor, we've got Ain't Nobody and Take 5. And from KokoTaylor, we've got Never Trust a Man and Voodoo Woman. Let's assume that all the music is going to play and behave itself this week. But yeah, we've got some Donna Harula on here, all the way to Kelly Joe Phelps and Johnny Winter. So there's a nice mix of music for you. And I think you're going to enjoy the topic. I hope you are. So, as a black man raised in the depths of the Jim Crow Delta and then living and performing mostly in the urban space of Chicago's South Side, Hound Dog Taylor knew the score and used his music to settle it. So, although Hound Dog's been gone for 40 some years, I think, he, his defiant joy still rings in the sound of the 3 singles and 2 studio albums he cut in his lifetime, and especially in live recordings where he and his team, because they were more than just a band, so he had co-guitarist Brewer Phillips, drummer Ted Harvey, and they were, carefree and outrageous and didn't really give a damn about anything. But to be fair, coming from such a background and then being, using your music for yourself and using your music then, as your life, I think you're entitled to, so their self-possessed music is the sound of freedom, and that's what it's all about. And in the context of African American history, even rebellion, those who can't hear that through these kind of raggedy tones and occasional hiccups and the odd mistake are merely listening with their ears. So when you hear him play, take a moment to imagine everything that they overcame and where the music's coming from, because that is important. And I think that when you think about, a lot of people think about blues music just as music, but when you really stop and think about where it came from, what it means, especially the kind of older original stuff, the stuff we've got nowadays is brilliant, and I'm not taking anything away from that. I love Christone, Kingfish, and all these kind of up and coming folk. They are fantastic. They're churning out some amazing music, but a lot of them take their inspiration from this original music, and because it means something to them, you can hear it in the kind of modern music, because they're still feeling what the original people were feeling, so he was born Theodore Roosevelt Taylor, not quite sure what year, 1915 to 1917, somewhere in there, in Natchez, which is about 85 miles north of Baton Rouge, on the banks of the Mississippi. So the small city's boomtown days were past. Its status as the lower river's nexus of steamboat traffic was erased by the expansion of railroads, but it continued to be a lively music town. In 1940, Natchez was the site of the infamous Rhythm Club fire, where 209 people lost their lives after being trapped inside the wood and steel building, where Walter Barnes, a well-regarded contemporary of Duke Ellington, was leading his Royal Creoleans Orchestra. But by then, Taylor, whose first instrument was actually the piano, was playing guitar and singing all over the Delta. He was also a tractor driver on a farm where he worked. He'd appeared on Sonny Boy Williamson's popular King Biscuit Time radio show, live radio show on the station KFFA in Helena, Arkansas. I can never tell how you're supposed to say that. I never have a conversation with somebody from America about how, not even about, but and mention different places in America, because we all say it's so different. You feel ridiculous, especially New Orleans, because I think we say it the way, we kind of say it phonetically. I've yet to meet somebody in American who says it the way we do, but hey ho, there's time yet. But yeah, so a few years later, Taylor hastily relocated to Chicago after the Ku Klux Klan burned a cross in front of his home in retaliation for an affair he'd had with a white woman. For the first day, he crawled through drainage ditches and hidden fields as he made his way north. I'd see. I mean, you just can't imagine, can you? Well, I can't. I think we sit here in our cushy wee lives getting offended over small things, and goodness knows what was going on, you know. But we've got not much to complain about. Right, so up next for you, we've got Donna Harula with Black Ice. You should definitely check her out. She's Chicago-based herself, actually. I must have subconsciously made this decision. She's brilliant, and we had the pleasure of having, I would say interviewing her, but it wasn't. We had this massive big long chat. She played us some music, and you know, apart from the fact that we had such a different time distance, we had to stop chatting, but I think I could have spoke to her for ages. I intend to meet her someday, and not even, you know, my geography's all over the place. I've got no idea how far away Chicago to Mississippi is, but I have a feeling it's not going to happen when we go over this year. However, you never know. And but yeah, do check her out, Donna Harula. She's been up for all sorts of awards. Her music's brilliant. She's a really genuinely lovely person doing some amazing stuff with the blues. And I chose Black Ice for today. I don't think I've actually listened to this one, and so we're going to be hearing it together for the first time on this show anyway. So I hope you enjoy. And then we've got the immensely talented Eric Bibb, who has just been touring Australia with his wonderful wife, and she's been up singing. They're just such an amazing couple and such an inspiration. Honestly, she, you know, had cancer, and a long battle. She had to have a tongue transplant, I do believe. And look at her now, singing with her husband, going on tour. Honestly, such an inspiration. So we've got Emmett's Ghost, which I do feel actually what the song is based on would make a fantastic topic for a radio show also. So enjoy, and I'll be back after this.
recall my first look at his battered face. A few years younger than Emmett Till when he met his brutal fate. That photograph scared me so bad I started to cry. What a way for a boy like me to have to die. The ghost of Emmett Till is walking around the town of Money, Mississippi. Can't move on 'cause hate's still going strong all over this country. That picture sowed a bitter seed in my frightened mind. From that day on I understood some hated my kind. That photograph revealed a fact I could not deny. Like Emmett Till, a boy like me could surely die. The ghost of Emmett Till is walking around the town of Money, Mississippi. Can't move on, though it's been so long, 'cause the killers walked free. I remember I started to shiver when I saw his face. Emmett's blood in the Tallahatchie River left a permanent trace. That photograph scared me so bad I started to cry. What a way for a boy like me to have to die. Ghost of Emmett Till is walking around the town of Money, Mississippi. Can't move on 'cause hate's still going strong all over this country.
How, I mean, it's an amazing tribute, and you know, he's such a talent and such a fantastic song, but such a sad story. The story of Emmett Till, which is indeed very true. So today we are having a look at, to start with, Hound Dog Taylor on the Blues and You show. So Hound Dog Taylor was born with polydactylism, which is a condition that causes the formation of additional fingers or toes. So both of his hands had 6 fingers. So the 6th finger wasn't very functional, but his 5th finger was extra large, and some people theorise that this added kind of bulk and strength may have helped him more aggressively pin the strings with his slide. Because generally when somebody plays the slide, it's a kind of softer slide. It's a kind of song almost that they do with their, rather than plucking the strings. And he was known for his wild playing. Remember, I told you at the beginning. So that could be the reason. And at one point, as fable has it, I mean, how true it is, we don't know, he was so tired of being razzed for his difference, and I mean, bearing in mind he would be getting it anyway, but the fact that he had this extra finger as well, so he supposedly used an axe or a straight razor to cut off the extra finger on his right hand, but the resultant pain, etc., led him to leave the left one alone. And as I said, who knows how true that is. I will go on a mission to find photographs of his hands and see what I can see, but it was just like a little, or the one that I have seen, one picture of one of his hands, it was just a small kind of little nub of a finger. It wasn't like an actual full-on pinky finger extra. So for his first 15 years in Chicago, he played gigs, but he made a living via day jobs, as normally people would do when they get started off. So under the spell of Elmore James, I'm sure I played Elmore James last week, whose early 50s singles established him as a star, Hound Dog Taylor began playing more and more slide, crafting his own raw distillation of Elmore's keening, cutting, aggressive style, and even copying his bawling vocal approach. So in 1957, he was building cabinets for televisions, and he made the decision to chase this, the muse full-time. 2 years later, he met guitarist Brewer Phillips on a gig, and the House Rockers began to gestate. It's funny how things happen, isn't it? Or I feel that way. And I find these stories so uplifting when you look back at the time this was going on and what they accomplished, and how most people unknowingly to this day have no idea that this music is where most of our music came from. Without all this happening, we wouldn't be where we are musically. And because from this came it evolved from your kind of original blues to R&B, which is rhythm and blues, and then went hip hop and rap, and all of this came from here. And I just find it fascinating when you find out about people. So I knew about Hound Dog Taylor, heard a few of his songs. I've seen him in a film about Alligator Records, and to then kind of research his backstory and find out what he survived, how he got where he was. That fascinates me. I hope it does to everybody else that's tuned in, but it definitely fascinates me. I love seeing where somebody came from and how they changed their lives around, because I feel that these stories can help us. When you're stuck in a rut and you think, well, do you know what? Look what he did. He escaped the Ku Klux Klan. He crawled his way through drainage ditches. He was making cabinets for TV, and then bang, he thought, nope, I'm not having this. So through the 60s, he eked out a living in Chicago's black working class bars, which stayed open long and late. And at some point he got the nickname Hound Dog, which is probably cooler than Teddy Roosevelt. But tales vary, so it was either because of his tireless pursuit of members of the opposite sex, or because he actually did look like a bit of a dog. He had prominent ears, a large nose and rounded eyes. Probably a wee bit of all of that, really. And he developed a pre-show ritual of downing a shot of whiskey, a mixed drink and a beer in quick sequence just before taking the stage, which he then would command for a series of sets, sometimes stretching to 6 hours or more. And the typical fee was $30 for a band, and it was bumped up to $45 on weekends for a lot of work. Mind you, if you were doing that as well as your day job, and you got to get up there and just rock out for 6 hours doing what you wanted, and people were tuning in, watching you dance and singing along, I can't imagine that you would put a price on that, really. I think it'd be quite cool. Maybe I should try his mad concoction before we take to the stage, and perhaps it'll, I think I'd probably fall over, let's be honest. I don't think it would do me any favours. However, you never know. So, in 1965, he and Phillips added a drummer, Ted Harvey, and this coalesced their sound really. So, with Harvey as their tireless spark plug, they developed a loose but brilliant language by meshing their guitars. So, mostly Hound Dog took the lead with his slide and his howling voice, and while Phillips would lay down a stone finger buster riff as a bass line. Often when you hear an instrumental by the House Rockers, like Phillips' Screwdriver, that's Brewer at the fore aggressively playing patterns, kind of mean and dirty single notes in a style that came from his early lessons with the great six-string innovator Memphis Minnie. Wow. So, in truth, Phillips was a better player than Taylor, but he just had the, charisma and the everything to be at the front. So with his crew at his side, he laid it down like Godzilla. He was up there, So, so we're going to carry on with this. But what have I got for you next? Gary Clark Jr., The Healing, and we've got some Hubert Sumlin. Blues is Here to Stay, and at we'll have our back-to-back tracks. So 3 singles actually between 1960 and 67, including a release on Chess subsidiary, or that, I knew I was going to make a mess of that, Checker, did nothing to enhance their fortunes. In 1967, he somehow obtained a slot on the American Folk Blues Festival Tour of Europe, but he hated the experience because his style didn't mesh with the other travellers, which included Little Walter, KokoTaylor, Son House, Brownie McGee. But in 1970, the coin flipped. So recent college, do you know what? I cannot say this man's name for love nor money, and I apologise. But Bruce, who was a music-loving college graduate, he moved to Chicago for a job at the famed Jazz Record Mart and Delmark Records operation, and he wanted to chase his city's thriving blues. So Taylor had told him about a regular Sunday gig he held down at Florence's Lounge on Chicago's south side, and it was a classic working man's bar, a standalone building made of brick and cinder blocks with a cubed glass window and dark wood panelled interior, just what you would picture, or it's certainly the way I would picture it anyway, kind of juke joint style, or kind of less wood, more brick. But anyone who has pursued regional music styles to their depths know this is the kind of lair where the wizards can sometimes be found. And in one afternoon in 1970, Bruce went along and found Taylor, Phillips and Harvey. So he then goes on to recount that afternoon, right down to the beads of sweat trickling down Taylor's cigarette smoke clouded face, and you can actually watch Bitten by the Blues, the Alligator Records story, which is what I do believe I watched. Yes, I'm pretty sure. Which he co-authored with Patrick Roberts. So talking about that gig 51 years later or so, I think it was like 2018, revelation still rings in his voice. So it was the most fun thing that he'd ever seen anyone doing, musically. And he remembers grinning all afternoon. So they were so happy that it was like watching kids pretend to make music with brooms instead of guitars, kind of kidding on you were a rock star. And Ted Harvey worked at a loading dock for Montgomery Ward, and Brewer Phillips worked construction. So Hound Dog was the only one who made a halfway living playing music. Their only motivation for being there, as I said, was to have fun and to share their music with other people. And so besides colourful stories about travels with the group and how Ted Harvey rarely drove because he'd end up on the wrong side of the road or something, Taylor sat up all night in his hotel room with the lights on because he was frightened of having a repeated dream about being chased by wolves. All this kind of thing. He had an epic slide guitar battle with J.B. Hutto, and they found a Kentucky Fried Chicken in Australia, thinking they were going to starve to death. So that day was transformative for both Bruce and Hound Dog Taylor. So after failing to get his boss to sign Taylor to Delmark because he didn't feel that it was a good fit for Delmark, Bruce went on and used a $2,500 inheritance to pay for 2 days of studio time, and that's where Alligator Records started. So Hound Dog Taylor and the House Rockers in 1971 came out of Alligator Records. Natural Boogie followed in 1973. And today, Alligator is the world's largest independent blues label. I think at that point, Delmark was more concerned with more jazz sounding music, preferably, even going into blues, but as long as it wasn't, more kind of jazz side of things. And so today Alligator is still the world's largest independent blues label. It's celebrated a 50th anniversary, and what cool history these stories have. It includes titles by Albert Collins, who's going to be another future topic of the show, Johnny Winter, who I have on here, Lonnie Brooks, Lonnie Mack, KokoTaylor, Buddy Guy, Junior Wells, and many other legends. So for the next 4 years, Alligator Records shepherd Taylor, Phillips and Harvey in the studio and across the world stages, and he describes the trio's chemistry as equal parts brotherly love, vicious adolescent rivalry and Canadian club. Quite cool. Right, let's have some Gary Clark Jr., The Healing, and some Hubert Sumlin back after this.
Lord, I'm a hard-fighting soldier, and I'm on the battlefield. I'm a hard-fighting soldier, and I'm on the battlefield. I'll keep bringing soul to Jesus by the service. The service that I bring. The service is the heart.
Yeah. I got something in motion, something you can't see. It requires devotion from those who truly believe. This is something you can't touch. This is something you feel. Yeah. For some people it's too much. For some people it heals. This music is my healing. This music is my healing. Lord knows I need some healing. 'Cause when this world upsets me, this music sets me free, yeah. We stand in formation while they test and they see. They compile information and try to make us believe that there is something we can't touch. Something we'll never feel. When I feel like it's too much, this music always reveals. This is our healing. This music is our healing. Lord knows we need some healing. Yeah, 'cause when this world upsets me, this music sets me free. God only knows who will save us, who will save us now. While they sit back and watch flowers turn to stone. We got this music. We got this music. We got this music. We got this music. We got this. got this, we got this, we got this music.
Hi, this is Donna Harula, and you're listening to Gaulty and Gator's Blues and New Show in Scotland.
Yes, you are. And today we are having a wee sort of wander down memory lane with Hound Dog Taylor. So, like the animal whose name he had, he loved being with people, and fans around the world knew him as funny, warm, smiling, just a lovely kind of warm-hearted host. So even when he was at home, he was on, just like when he was on stage. He was the life of the party. And Bruce, right, let me have a go at this, Igler, because I hope I've said your name properly, honestly. I dread saying things. I should always try and find some sort of pronunciation before I start these things. But anyway, Bruce Igler, who started Alligator Records, says whenever he would, kind of visit Hound Dog Taylor's apartment, it was buzzing with visiting friends and relatives. But in his quiet times, Taylor often appeared sad and regretful. So he seemed to feel that he'd missed out on a lot of things in life, and he persecuted himself for what he saw as a lack of musical and practical education, not really believing in himself and appreciating the depth of his own soulfulness or the joy that his music created. So thinking that he needed, to have been more academic with it. I suppose everybody has, small regrets, and And perhaps that's part of some people's charm, that they don't recognise how amazing they are, because it keeps people humble then. So one of Taylor and Phillips' joys was argument. So they once bickered all the way from Boston back to Chicago, which was like nearly 1,000-mile round trip. And it was all about whether Hub City radio station WRKO was AM or FM. I mean, I can imagine bickering for that length of time with somebody, but not about one specific topic. So one morning after an all-night drive, Hound Dog woke up in the back seat of a car and noticed Ted Harvey was asleep in the front. He smacked Ted on the back of the head and yelled, "Wake up and argue." It was not always good or funny, sorry. And in his book, Bruce Igler recounts finding Taylor and Phillips in a violent argument behind a club. They had, knives drawn out, and they were going for blood. So he's saying, "I don't really know what would have happened because their tone made me feel like they really wanted to kill each other." Acting fast, he reminded both men that they had a show contracted to fulfill, and the battle stopped. So he thinks they were probably looking for an excuse to put the knives away. In May 1975, they went too far. During a visit to Taylor's home, Phillips made a tasteless joke about Taylor's wife. So Taylor shot him in the arm and the thigh with a rifle, dearie me. And that was the end of the House Rockers. A few months later, Hound Dog Taylor was in the hospital with inoperable cancer in his lungs and neck. And this was his last stop before his great gig in the sky. Bruce was a frequent visitor, and on his final stop by 2 days before Hound Dog slipped away, he was leaving as Phillips arrived to make amends with his friend, and Hound Dog Taylor died on December 17th, 1975. It's some life. I don't know if there's a film, but I know there's a book. Let me see if I can find that for you quickly. Pretty sure there's a book about his life. I want to say, I think Goodnight Boogie, A Tale of Guns, Wolves and the Blues of Hound Dog Taylor. It's a fairly new thing. I think I'll be adding that to my to-read list once I finish this year's uni, which has had something like 15 books that we've been forced to read. Yes, so sounds like quite a good wee read. So he had some life, and, despite his misgivings over him thinking that, he didn't have the best of educations and he should have done this and he should have done that, he really, kind of brought joy to so many people, and completely, turned his life around, did something totally mental, chased his dream, just like many of us talk about, think about, dream about, and never actually go through with, but he did, and that's pretty cool. So we've got Hound Dog Taylor, Ain't Got Nobody, and Take 5. And if you took 5 of his fingers, he would still have had 7, so it would have been fine. However, then we'll go straight into KokoTaylor, Never Trust a Man, and one of my personal favourites, Voodoo Woman. And the second half of this show will be all about the fabulous woman herself. So don't be going anywhere, because there's more to come.
I'm telling you all. You gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta go. Oh yeah, showing up. You gotta go, babe. Be back some more day. Take 5. Take 5, babe. Take 5. Take 5. Take 5. Take 5. Oh yeah, showing up. Take 5, babe. Be back some more day.
The Music Cable Company. Professional, bespoke, low resistance and low capacitance cables for musicians. Handmade in Scotland using the finest cable, weave and connector products. Handcrafted, studio quality, road ready cables. TheMusicCableCompany.com.
Lied to, misused, and then pushed aside. I can't count the nights I wish for mama and cried. Mama told me, girl, you just can't trust a man. But I was wild at the time. People and I just didn't understand. At first it was a schoolboy, my first love in the world. I thought I would die. I caught him kissing another girl. Mama told me, girl, don't never trust a man. But I was wild at the time. People and I just didn't understand. sky began to cry. They call me the voodoo woman. I look through water and spy dry land. They call me the voodoo woman. I look through water and spy dry land. I tell all you men, if your woman got enough, I got a rabbit foot in my pocket, a toad frog in my shoe, a crawfish on my shoulder, you looking dead at you. I got dust from a rattlesnake, I got a black spider bone. If that don't do it, baby, you better leave it all alone. They call me the voodoo woman, and I know the reason why. Lord, if I raise my hand, you know the sky begin to cry. I got a rabbit foot in my pocket, a toad frog in my shoe, a crawfish on my shoulder, looking dead at you. I got dust from a rattlesnake, I got a black spider bone. If that don't do it, baby, you better leave it all alone. They call me the voodoo woman, and I know the reason why. Lord, if I raise my hand, you know the sky begin to cry. Lord, if I raise my hand, you know the sky begin to cry. Lord, if I raise my hand, you know the sky begin to cry. Lord, if I raise my hand, you know the sky begin to cry.
Oh, how amazing was that? Some cool back-to-back tracks for you there. And just in case you've just joined us, that was the fantastic KokoTaylor, and before that we had Hound Dog Taylor. Hound Dog Taylor was the subject of the first half of the show, and the fabulous KokoTaylor is the up for topic now. So she was dubbed, quite accurately so, I think you'll agree, the Queen of Chicago Blues. And KokoTaylor helped keep the tradition of big-voiced, brassy female blues belters alive, recasting the spirits of early legends like some of which we had on last week, Bessie Smith, Ma Rainey, Big Mama Thornton, and Memphis Minnie. So that she kind of, introduced that kind of style for the modern age. Rough, raw vocals, just perfect for this new electric era of blues that started in Chicago, and her massive hit Wang Dang Doodle, which I have to say, I don't think I've ever played it. It's a fantastic song, honestly. This served notice that male dominance in the blues was not exclusive, and she had a productive initial stint on Chess Records and then spent several decades on the prominent contemporary blues label Alligator with Bruce Igler. I hope I'm saying your name right, pal. Going on to win more W.C. Handy awards than any other female performer in history, and establishing herself as far and away the greatest female blues singer of all time. Fantastic voice. I don't know if I'm getting this accurate. But she was woken up in the middle of the night and, asked to go and record Wang Dang Doodle. Now, maybe I'll talk less and squeeze that in, and she's gone on the show, or maybe I'll just take a couple out. Who knows? But when you hear it, I think, how can you wake up in the middle of the night and then manage to sing that? Because it's like nonsense that makes such a cool song. But anyway, she was born Cora Walton, September 28th, 1928, on a sharecropper's farm in Memphis, Tennessee. Her mother died in 1939, and her and her siblings grew up helping their father in the fields. She got the nickname Coco because she loved chocolate so much, and she began singing gospel music in a local Baptist church. And inspired by the music they heard on the radio, she and her siblings played on makeshift instruments. They played the blues on, kind of mad instruments that they made themselves. In 1953, she married truck driver Robert Pops Taylor and moved with him to Chicago to look for work. I talked a little bit about this last week, but, he worked, I think they actually ended up in the South Side, and he worked in a slaughterhouse and she got a job as a housemaid cleaning. So they often played blues songs together at night, and they would, go down to the South Side blues clubs whenever they could. And Pops encouraged Coco to sit in with some of the bands, and her singing, which reflected not only the classic female blues shouters, but contemporaries, like Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, who were out there at that particular time, and actually were the ones credited with electrifying the blues. She quickly made a name for herself. In 1962, she met legendary Chess Records songwriter, producer and bassist Willie Dixon, who's the one that woke her up and said, "Hey, I've written a song, you need to come and do it now." And he was so impressed with her live performance that he took her under his wing. He produced her 1963 debut single Honky Tonky, and for the small USA label, and then secured her a recording contract with Chess Records. She made her recording debut for Chess in 1964 and hit it big the following year with the Dixon-penned Wang Dang Doodle, which sold over 1 million copies and hit number 4 on the R&B charts. It became her signature song forever after, and it was also the last Chess single to hit the R&B top 10. Demand for her, so I was just checking the time to make sure I wasn't, what I'm like, kind of, it skyrocketed, right? The demand went through the roof, and even though none of her follow-ups sold as well, as the blues audience began to shift from black to white, the relatively new Taylor became one of the first Chicago blues artists to command a following on the city's white-dominated north side. What's Nathan? What are you doing? So the kind of culture of it all changed, and there was an interview with Muddy Waters, and he was doing, I don't know, I think it was like a wee festival, and folk are like, nobody's going to come, I don't know why you bother anymore. Black people wanted to disassociate with that whole side of things. They didn't want to remember about slavery and where the music came from, and when he got up to do his bit, he looked out, and the crowd was mainly middle-class white people, and although it's a shame that certain things happened, it needed to happen in order for that music to stay alive and still be music that we know about, that is still being made, and I think it's important that we all remember where it came from. And nowadays, I have to be honest, especially in the UK kind of side of things, we have got a lot of people who really shouldn't have a say telling us what is and what isn't acceptable blues music in this day and age, when really I don't think that really they should have as big a say in it as they do. I will not be naming names, but I'm sure you can all use your imaginations. So next up for you, we have got Johnny Winter. And oh wow, I think you're just, do you know, it's got nothing to do with the documentary because he's a fascinating man, but I keep trying to watch a documentary about him and I never get past a certain tips because I always put it on too late and I always fall asleep. So I've got no idea what happens at the end of it. So what I should do if I was clever is start it from the bit that I fall asleep at and then watch the rest of it. But yeah, completely fascinating, and I hope you enjoy this.
Butcher Knight toting Nanny, tell fast talking Fanny. We gonna pitch a ball down to that Union Hall. We gonna romp and tromp till midnight. We gonna fuss and fight till daylight. We gonna pitch a wing and doodle all night long. All night long. All night long. All blues everywhere. We gonna pitch a wang dang doodle all night long. All night long. All night long. All night long. All night This is a mean old world. Try living by yourself. This is a mean old world. Try living by yourself. Can't get the one you love and have to use somebody else. I've got the blues, gonna pack my things and go. Yes, I've got the blues, gonna pack my things and go. Well, I guess you don't love me. You loving Mr. So and so. Sometime I wonder why can your love be so cold? Sometimes I wonder why can your love be so cold? Seems like to me you don't want me. I'm just an unlucky so and so.
Hi friends, this is Eric Bibb, and we're listening to Gaulty and the Gators Blues Show in Scotland.
Oh, so cool, so cool. Right, we are talking KokoTaylor. I snuck in a bit of Wang Dang Doodle for you, and so you got to hear it eventually. And we're now having a wee look at what happens after her and her husband managed to quit their day jobs. He became her manager, and she put together a backing band called the Blues Machine, with the release of two. Please go away. Sorry. With the release of two albums, 1969's KokoTaylor, which featured a number of her previous singles, and 1972's Basic Soul, Taylor's live gigs kept branching out further and further from Chicago, and when she played the 1972 Ann Arbor Blues and Jazz Festival, the resulting live album on Atlantic helped bring her to a national audience. Again, mind, she was a housemaid and he was working in a slaughterhouse. They left for Chicago with 35 cents and a box of Ritz crackers to their name. That was it. And look at what they accomplished. By the early 70s, Chess Records was floundering financially and eventually went under in 1975. And that was when KokoTaylor signed with a then young Chicago-based label called Alligator, which has grown into one of America's most prominent blues labels over the years. Taylor debuted for Alligator in 1975 with I Got What It Takes, an acclaimed effort that garnered her first Grammy nomination. Her 1978 follow-up, The Earth Shaker, featured several tunes that became staples of her live show, including I'm a Woman, which we heard from Demetria Taylor last week, and Hey Bartender, and her popularity on the blues circuit just kept growing in spite of the music's commercial decline. In 1980, she won the first of an incredible string of W.C. Handy Awards for Best Contemporary Female Artist, and over the next 2 decades she would capture at least one more almost every year, save for 1989, 97 and 98. 1981 brought From the Heart of a Woman, and in 1984 she won her first Grammy thanks to her appearance on Atlantic's Various Artists compilation Blues Explosion, which was named Best Traditional Blues Album. She followed that success with the guest-laden Queen of the Blues in 1985, which won her a couple extra Handy Awards for Vocalist of the Year and Entertainer of the Year. No female qualifier attached. In 1987, she released her first domestic live album, An Audience with the Queen. I've seen her in a number of different documentaries. I mean, I know I say that all the time, but I just find them, I find the whole thing so fascinating. And I watch tons of them, not just about the blues, loads of different documentaries. And I think really I got right into that when I first started doing radio shows, because it's one of the quickest ways to learn about something if you're trying to put together enough research to cover a topic on the radio, is to watch somebody else compiling it and then go from that. You've got things to then research from the documentary. So it started that way, and it's just tends to be between that and reading is what I do in my spare time. And reading has not been easy this year, as I said, with uni, but you know. Tragedy struck for KokoTaylor in 1988. She broke her shoulder, collarbone and several ribs in a van accident while on tour, and her husband went into cardiac arrest. So although Pop survived for a time, his health was never the same, and he passed away some months later. After recuperating, Taylor made a comeback at the annual Chicago Blues Festival, and in 1990 she issued Jump for Joy, as well as making a cameo appearance in the typically bizarre David Lynch film Wild at Heart. She followed this in 1993 with the aptly titled Force of Nature, after which she took a 7-year hiatus from recording. During that time, she remarried and continued to tour extensively, maintaining the stature she'd achieved with her 80s work as the living queen of the blues. In 2000, she finally returned with a new album, Royal Blue, which featured a plethora of guest stars, including B.B. King, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Johnny Johnson and Keb Mo. Health issues forced another 7-year hiatus before she returned with the album Old School in 2007. KokoTaylor died in Chicago June 2009 after experiencing complications from surgery for gastrointestinal bleeding. She was 80 years old. I mean, what a massive, amazing career. To span that length of time, and to be doing so much amazing stuff. And you've heard her here, but I do urge you to check out some of her other stuff. And if you do come across documentaries about, the ones that I find more fascinating is the journeys from the fields, to the current day. So you get some belters. One of these days I will make a wee compilation list for you all. But you get some cracking documentaries that you can follow the music, and it just blows me away, just everything that was accomplished. I have got some Kelly Jo Phelps. What have we got for you? Down to the Praying Ground, and also we'll squeeze in there, I think, Hound Dog Taylor with She's Gone at some point. So I'm going to pop this on before I run out of too much time to get the music on.
So many years dead on a hollow road, dirty old blood running through my veins, making all kind of weird decisions, cut all the light from the sky, seeing changes, my knees are falling down to the breakground, holding my head, grab hold of my soul for God. It's been a time I should have not lived through. Ought to be lying in the cold, cold ground instead of knocking along this highway, leaning on God's holy word. Oh, I pray to the Lord in heaven, forgive this wicked fool. Holy might, grab hold of my soul for God. For God. Oh Lord, forgive me. Lord, have mercy. Lord, have mercy. Lord, forgive me. I got some work to get a working on. Lost a lot of time in a coal mine, hell. It made my soul grow wise and strong. Live in a house made of stone. Let 'em in, all you weary pilgrims. Head to the playground. Holy might, grab hold of your soul for God. For God. Oh Lord, forgive me. Lord, have mercy. Lord, forgive me. Lord, have mercy. I'm gonna live for God. I'm gonna live for God. I'm gonna live for God.
I went to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. I went to the crossroads, fell down on my say, say, poor Bob, if you please. Stand at the crossroads, I tried to flag her right. Stand at the crossroads, I tried to flag her right. Ain't nobody seem to know me. Everybody passed me by. The song's going down, boy. Song's gonna catch me here. Boy, song's gonna catch me here. I haven't got no loving sweet woman that's love and feel my care. You can run. Tell my friend boy Willie Brown. You can run. Tell my friend boy Willie Brown. Now that I'm standing at the crossroad, baby, I believe I'm sinking down.
And there you had Hound Dog Taylor with She's Gone. I played Kelly Joe Phelps down to the praying ground, rather. And we had Little Walter, A Mean Old World. And a wee bit of Robert Johnson, Crossroad Blues. So I think when you listen to Kelly Joe Phelps, specifically that song that I played for you, you can see what I mean by the slide being more of a song. It's delicate and vocal, and then when you listen to Hound Dog Taylor, he just makes it sound different completely, and that is what kind of set him apart. Especially when you consider all the songs that I played for you from Hound Dog Taylor, all his successes, and he could barely read or write. He had no idea about writing music or reading music, and look at what he done, you know. I mean, it just shows you there's nothing in this world that can hold us back except us. That's really it. And this last part of the show, we've been looking at KokoTaylor and what an amazing life she had too. Started off rough and ended up awesome. Actually, just in case any musicians out there are wondering, Hound Dog Taylor actually tuned his guitar to open E and open D, but he would tune by ear, which quite a lot of musicians do now, and definitely did at that point, because obviously they're in the middle of a gig, and you know, it was important to learn how to tune by ear, especially as the whiskey was flowing. At one point, actually, Hound Dog Taylor tried to quit drinking, but he shook so badly that he couldn't play, so he just started drinking again. Now, quickly back to KokoTaylor, because we're running out of time. She actually visited Europe as part of the American Folk Blues Festival, and that was the beginning of her international appeal. That was in 1967. So when you think of coming from a sharecropper, you know, sort of background, gospel singing, playing your instruments with your siblings that you made yourself, moving to Chicago with 35 cents and a box of crackers and nothing much else, and going from being a housemaid to visiting Europe as part of an American Folks Blues Festival, it's some going. Unfortunately, in 1969, as I said, when Chess Records was faltering, they had to terminate her contract, and she was forced to return to domestic service. But 1975 is when she signed with Alligator Records, and she would release 9 albums between 1978 and 2007, 8 of which were Grammy nominated. You know, a phenomenal career. She appeared in films such as Wild at Heart and the Blues Brothers, which I actually credit this CD, Blues Brothers Soul Sister, for when I first became interested in the blues. But I remember sitting on my dad's knee as a wee tot watching the Blues Brothers, and it would have been there, you know, kind of for me, that we've got it on DVD. I think my kids have all seen it. Things changed when I was a child. It was on normal television, PG, Saturday early evening. I sat and watched it with my dad, and trust me, my parents would not let me watch anything that I wasn't supposed to. And Smokey and the Bandit and that kind of whole movies that were out then that were all PG that are now 12 and 15, and but having watched it, you know, I let my kids watch it. And yeah, so she did that. She was in countless television appearances, documentaries about music. She also received more blues music awards than any other artist, male or female. In 1993, she received the Legend of the Year award, and March 3rd was declared KokoTaylor Day by Chicago Mayor Richard M. Daley. In 1997, she was included in the Blues Foundation Hall of Fame, and in 1999 was awarded the Blues Foundation Lifetime Achievement Award. Through her career, she performed with musical legends such as Muddy Waters, I'm reading two things at the same time, sorry, and B.B. King. She had a fantastic career. She is a fantastic role model for women in music, women in general, and certainly, you know, African American history have to look up to her and think, wow, you know, look what she accomplished. I am so glad that I stumbled across her. I'm so glad I listened to her music. I could never imagine having that amazing growly voice that she's got. You don't need to see her to know exactly who you're listening to, and you know, imagine receiving more blues music awards than any other artist, male or female. I think it's things like this that you know, we have to hold on to, you know, and let's not let go in a kind of gender feud that everybody's having going on at the moment. Let's live and let live, but honestly, let's celebrate the fact that this woman did something amazing in a time where it was difficult for women to do much, and you know, let's congratulate her for that, and let's remember it. You know, she was widowed in 1996 after a long, happy life with her husband, who was also her manager for a time. 1989, rather, sorry. She remarried in 1996. She married Hayes Harris, and sadly died. She died 2009 in Chicago, leaving behind a daughter, 2 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren, who will all live on to know what an amazing woman she was. What a legacy to leave behind. We are going to end today's show with Ry Cooder, Crossroads, mainly just because I've been talking about him recently, and I thought, I don't recall him getting a wee shot on the radio, so, or certainly he's had plenty of shots on the radio, but this particular one, so that's what you're playing out with today. I hope you've enjoyed today's topic. It's very different doing this show without the Gator. Just at the moment, he's got music coming out, he's got music videos, he's, you know, filming, and life is quite busy for him, as well as taking himself back to school and doing graphic design at college. So, you know, it's very difficult to get enough time together to get a radio show sorted, but I'm enjoying it, and you know, I hope you are too. And so tune in. I think actually next week I'm going to cover Emmett Till on this. I know it's not a musical thing, but I think it is an important story, and I'm pretty sure I can work a playlist around the subject. So bring your tissues, because it's going to pull at your heartstrings. It's an awful story, but as I said, it's important. And for now, here's Ry Cooder, Crossroads. Thanks for tuning in.
I'm Mama, forgive me. Won't you forgive me, please? I'm standing at the crossroads. I'm so lonesome down here. Don't pass me by. In the morning. Don't pass me by. In the evening. Give me a ride now. Give me a ride now.
Hi, this is Wiley Bo Walker, and you're listening to Gaulty and the Gators Blues and News Show. Turn on the radio and drive, drive, drive.